Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Joby Talbot's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, live from the Royal Opera House, which I saw at the UCI Kinowelt Theatres. The conductor was Koen Kesses. The production was done by Christopher Saunders. The choreographer was Christopher Wheeldon. The costumes were done by Bob Crowley. The sets were done by Nicholas Wright. The lights were done by Natasha Katz. The projections were done by John Driscoll and Gemma Carrington. The assistant choreographer was Jacqueline Barrett. The ballet masters were Gary Avis, Ricardo Cervera, Jonathan Howells, and Sean Murphy. And the choreographer was Anna Trevine. Now, it should be no surprise that Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, more commonly known as Alice in Wonderland, written by Charles Dodgson, aka Lewis Carroll, is one of the most popular works of classic literature of all time. In fact, it's been adapted so many times, from animated films like the one in Disney, more specifically the 1951 classic Alice in Wonderland, to live-action films like Jan Spunkmeyer's Alice, and even to Unsuk Chin's opera Alice in Wonderland. This particular piece of classic literature has been well known all throughout the world, most notably because of its overall charm, its grand sense of imagination, and of course, everything that makes the world of Wonderland quite something to be reckoned with. It can be interpreted in so many ways, from the blissful, colorful, and the absolute visual feast of Disney to even that of Jan Spunkmeyer's darker and more frightening image. There's no doubt that Wonderland has left a major place in all of our hearts. And I came upon this ballet specifically by chance. And when I first heard the music composed by Joby Talbot, I was immediately enthralled. The music for Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was, simply put, so amazing and so versatile. You had some moments like the pas de deux, which are waltz-like and so charming. The Queen's waltz solo, which shows her larger-than-life and extravagant nature. And even the Mad Hatter's tap dancing to exhibit his zany personality. And of course, the Caterpillar's erratic dance. There was so much style in the music that I was completely enthralled, and it was certainly an auditory feast. What I also noticed about this particular ballet version of Alice in Wonderland is that the people behind it sort of aged up Alice from being a 13 or 12-year-old girl in the novels to being more of an older teenager, more specifically between the ages of 16 and 18 in the ballet. And she not only has one sister, she basically has two, and it's basically her mother that is very much controlling, and the dad is a lot more lenient. On top of that, Alice is given a love interest. In the real world, it's in the form of Jack, the serving boy, but in Wonderland, it's in the form of the Knave of Hearts. And of course, for those of us who have read Alice in Wonderland, we all know what's going on in this particular story. She encounters the White Rabbit, she falls into the rabbit hole, she encounters a room full of doors, and of course the whole eat me and drink me setup, in which when she drinks something, she shrinks, and when she eats something, she grows, and she gets herself into a lot of shenanigans with the Duchess and the cook and the Caterpillar, the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and of course, the Queen of Hearts, whose most notable quote is, "Off with their heads." And in the end, the ballet basically sets it to a more modern time, with the 21st century Alice and of course her boyfriend, the 21st century Jack, just enjoying their time in the park and having a picture from someone who seems quite familiar to Alice, and then they just head off home. Interestingly enough, Lewis Carroll also appears in the ballet. And of course, any dancer who does Lewis Carroll also does the role of the White Rabbit, probably to show that the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland is one of the most iconic characters ever. With that said, let's get on to what I thought about the production. Overall, I found it to be so gorgeous and so intricate. Every piece of costume, props, and everything that surrounds it was so amazing to witness. Technology can certainly do a lot of amazing things, like how Alice falls down the rabbit hole and all of these holographic images that come to life, and especially considering the fact that there are many dancers who also form the Cheshire Cat to be a sort of 3D puppet. And I found it very interesting because usually one would expect a single dancer to dance the role of the Cheshire Cat, but here we have multiple dancers who give the Cheshire Cat a lot of life. And of course, there's even the whole juxtaposition of the real world and the Wonderland counterparts, much like how The Wizard of Oz starring Judy Garland does this. In the real world, the mother, who is quite domineering and always has to make sure that her daughters dress up so well and everything goes perfectly, is also the Queen of Hearts in Wonderland. With the Queen of Hearts, of course, she has her domineering and extravagant personality, and she's also decked in red. And if you know me, I am a huge fan of the color red. So just by seeing the King and Queen of Hearts, and especially her subjects dressed up in that particular color, made me ooze with such pure glee. And of course, all the denizens in Wonderland fit a certain style and a certain type of charisma that make them stand out, especially in the music. In terms of the cook, the Duchess, and of course their residents, they're given a very zany and manic tone. And with the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and the Dormouse, they're sort of given a zanier and colorful tone. But in terms of the Queen of Hearts, she's given a very extravagant and powerful tone to show that she's the one that wears the pants in the court, and she's the one with all the power. And I'm not going to mince words here. The production and costumes were absolutely vivid, colorful, brilliant, and magnificent. All the colors seemed to pop out of all different directions, and it was a great visual feast. And now we get to the dancers, starting off with Lauren Cuthbertson as Alice. And she managed to pull off this role very well. She even created this role back then in 2011. She certainly embodied the role of Alice with a lot of grace, beauty, style, and she was so charming on stage with her lithe and delicate physique, and of course her expressiveness, not only in her body but also found in her face. She was a very involving dancing actress, and she showed a lot of style, elegance, beauty, and grace, and she managed to lead the show very well. She had this type of charisma which made her stand out, and she certainly was like a bright, shining star. She had the agility of a gazelle and the grace of a fair young maiden. Dancing the role of Jack and the Name of Hearts was Federico Bonelli, and he also had a lot of grace, beauty, and style, not only found in his dancing, but also in the way he managed to express himself. And his chemistry with Lauren Cuthbertson's Alice was so believable. I definitely believed everything they have done together from beginning to end. They were certainly great as a couple, And of course, their individual dancing was absolutely fabulous. He was able to bring in a lot of charisma, enthusiasm, and light to both Jack and his counterpart, the Name of Hearts, and he was a fine and handsome figure. Then we have the dual roles of Lewis Carroll and the White Rabbit, who were done by James Hay. And he was also another fine danseur. He had grace, elegance, charisma, and style, which made him stand out. As Lewis Carroll, he was very composed and dashing and elegant. But as the White Rabbit, he was a little bit more manic, and he certainly had a lot of fun with this part, with all of his staccato movements and just making the White Rabbit a lot of fun to watch. He was definitely a versatile dancing actor, and I can see it all in not only in the way he moved throughout the stage, but also in his expressions. Everything about him was full of charisma and charm, that he was, simply put, a magnificent performing artist. And of course, he was in tip-top shape. Laura Morera was an absolute thrill as both the mother and the Queen of Hearts. The way she was able to play these two characters was so well done. In terms of the mother, she made her domineering and a bit of a worrywart that things might go wrong. But as the Queen of Hearts, that's where I felt that she really stole the show. She made her domineering, quite nasty, and quite a fun character to witness, even though she's quite an unpleasant character. She made her come to life so well. She was agile. She was a magnificent actress. And of course, everything about her as a performing artist radiates with pure charisma and pure passion. It is all evident in her body. It is all evident in her expressions. And she certainly dominated the entire shebang. Christopher Saunders was also quite hilarious as both the father and the King of Hearts. As the father, he seemed quite sympathetic, but as the King of Hearts, he is rollickingly hilarious and quite a joy to watch. And he was quite on par with the principal players. The way he managed to play off of Laura Morera's Queen of Hearts was so well done. And the way he managed to make his personality different than the Queen's was quite fun. And one can tell that they had so much fun portraying these parts, and it was an absolute joy to see them work their magic. Stephen McRae had a lot of charisma as both the magician and the Mad Hatter. The way he was able to make the Mad Hatter a zany and fun-loving character was pure bliss. And his tap dancing skills were outstanding. He was able to move around the stage with a lot of energy and great timing that it was so hard to take my eyes away from him. He was that infectious as a performing artist that I practically wanted to see a lot more of him in the near future. In fact, I certainly hope that a lot more live streams feature this great tap dancer / danseur. Fernando Montaño was virile as both Raja and the Caterpillar, but I thought he was at his best when he did the role of the Caterpillar. The way he was able to make him so sensual, so sinuous, and so seductive as a character made him all the more exciting. He was, without a doubt, a very exciting performer, and the way he was able to move his body, the way he was able to bring out all those sensual moments, and the way he was able to have a lot of charisma and a lot of virility on stage was, simply put, so awesome. We even had a lot of magnificent dancing from Gary Avis's rollicking Duchess, Paul Kay's hilarious Pope and March Hare, Romani Paidak's agile Dormouse, Kristen McNally's rollickingly hilarious Cook, Tristan Dyer's and David Yude's superb characterization of the two servants of the cook, Megan Grace Hinkes's and Beatrice Stix Brunel's superb characterizations of Alice's sisters, who are so charming and so adorable, Harry Church's hilarious yet masculine servant and executioner, and of course all the members of the Corps du Ballet from the Royal Ballet were absolutely amazing. So overall, the dancing found in everyone was magnificent. And I also have to give a lot of kudos to Christopher Wheeldon for such amazing choreography. And the conducting done by Koen Kessels was magnificent. He made sure that the orchestra was led superbly, and he did a magnificent job as a conductor. So overall, what a great evening I had for Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The production was superbly colorful. The dancers were at their greatest A game yet. And of course, the score done by Joby Talbot was an absolute thrill. And for those of you who caught this production of Joby Talbot's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, what'd you think of it? Did you feel like Lauren Cuthbertson really stole the show as Alice? Did you feel like there was another dancer who stole her thunder? Did you really love the production in its entirety? Or did you feel like there was something that just didn't really hold up? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow where I finally review the anime Paranoia Agent. So until then, good night everybody and happy Halloween.